Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Masks Off. I'm Kim.
And I'm Tia.
And today we are going to be talking a little bit about Brene Brown's new book. It's called Atlas of the Heart. And honestly, when the book first came out, for some reason, I didn't even jump to buy her book. And normally I always have to get Brene Brown's books as soon as they come out. And I don't know why I thought this, I really thought it was just a book of pictures. I don't know why I thought that. I just thought, but anyway, I finally got it and I started reading it and it's amazing. And we are going to actually use a quote from her book and we're going to talk about comparison, which is something that she wrote about in the book, which is why I'm talking about Brene Brown in and of itself. So the quote is that we are using: comparison is the crush of conformity from one side and competition from the other. It's trying to simultaneously fit in and stand out. So, this one's a tough one for me. I hate to admit that I compare, but I do it constantly. So I am taking my mask off right now and being fully honest and vulnerable and saying like, wow, I can just remember this feeling from when I was little. Like when I was in school, and this was after the point when I started, this is when I started to achieve and become an overachiever and a perfectionist. And I can remember getting the straight A's or doing really well in sports, and someone else, like one of my really good friends, actually two of my really good friends in high school, didn't do as well with their grades. And I can remember having this feeling of superiority.
Ooh.
Oh God, I hate even saying it. Oh my God. But you know what? Okay, so let's just stay with that. I can remember having this feeling of superiority.
Okay.
And then throughout high school, a lot of friends would say to me, because my house was always the house where we went and had parties and we hung out, and my mom, would offer food. She would buy us pizza. She would take my friends back and forth all the time. So it was like the place to be. And so they would always make comments about how great my family was.
Sure.
Oh my God, you got the best mom and dad. Like, oh my God, they're great. My parents suck, and I can remember, well, I had two feelings. I had two things going on. One is it's the, what do they call it? Street angel, house devil. So they didn't really know what went on behind closed doors. But nonetheless, when they said that, it made me feel like I've got a one up on you. Like, oh, I'm better than you. You think my parents are great or whatever. So there's that. And Brene Brown said in the book, she said researchers call it two things. Let me make sure: upward and downward comparisons. So when I would have that feeling of looking down, feeling superior because I get better grades, I'm a better athlete, my parents are better, or even later in life, when we got our first really big, nice house and people will come and say, oh my God, your house is beautiful. It's like, oh my God, such a nice house. My house is like crap, and I get that sense again, that feeling of that comparison. So that's downward comparison, right? Looking down, me looking down on the other.
You're on the pedestal looking down.
I'm on the pedestal looking down.
Right.
And then the other one that the researchers talk about is the upward comparison. So again, full disclosure, taking my mask off, the one area where I really would do that upward comparison is, so going back again to the same friends in high school. Isn't this interesting?
You're just having an aha right now, aren't
you? Yes. So while I could do that downward comparing of I get better grades, I might be a better athlete, the upward comparing with my friends were because I was overweight and I didn't have the boyfriends, and I didn't feel pretty enough. I didn't feel thin enough. I didn't feel good enough. And they had the boyfriends, they were pretty, so there's me with the upward comparison of, you have something that I think I want, that I'm lacking, and I'm not enough in my not enoughness.
Right.
I'm looking upward and comparing myself. Oh gosh, comparison. You think that it's just like a really simple word, but it's so loaded. And it's no wonder that Brene, because she's awesome at this stuff, would write about this in her book. I'm like, I can fully relate as I'm reading that chapter.
Just wait to see what else is uncovered as you continue. And I continue through the book as well, because I mean, this book is, I'm just looking at it right now, almost 300 pages. And I think it's 80, is it 87 emotions? It's 87.
Yes.
88, I think.
Yeah.
Emotions, life experiences, whatever, she kind of umbrellas them. So I can only imagine what other things we're gonna experience and have while reading this book. And to have comparison bring so much up in you, and realizing, I love the example of being in high school and your friends, because it's like you were looking down and looking up, and it just shows you how we can encompass both, and you're using our I am whole, right? You're investigating and increasing your awareness and going through the steps of the process naturally now, because you've integrated it so beautifully. And we both have, because we've been practicing before we share this with everybody, that all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, here, I thought it was only this way. Now go within, I realize, oh, I'm doing it that way too. So how is comparison showing up today? Do you have an example? I know I have one too. So
I'm not sure right offhand. Why don't you start, and then I'll see, how's it showing up for you?
One area I know it's showing up for me particularly is, and it's interesting, the dance, how I can easily justify, but then I also tap in, I'm like, well, I actually don't like doing that, is social media.
Oh yes.
I'm not a Facebook fan. I use it a little bit for business, but lately I haven't been posting any business posts really, other than our podcast for the most part, or in groups, but I don't like Facebook. I don't like social media. I don't like taking the energy and the effort to create the posts, because they don't happen just instantaneously. They take intention, at least when I post stuff. So I see other people creating this amazing content, and I'm like, oh, how do they come up with these words? How do they make these beautiful quotes? How do they? Why can't I just do that too? And
so
then
you're looking up.
I'm looking up, and the reality is I'm also like really feel good about certain areas of social media that I will engage enough, but I don't want to overdo. So and it's coming up to the forefront right now, because I haven't posted consistently, because I used to make sure I scheduled out posts every day, and now it's been like 2 a week maybe. And I want to get back into that, just because to have a continuous presence from a business standpoint, not a personal piece, and noticing my resistance, but then also really liking and other people's content that they're creating, so it's like, okay, isn't it an interesting place to be, of like, I want it, but I don't want it. Because if I did really want it, I'd make it happen. And I also don't like social media. So I don't like that's the way that we feel we have to maintain our business. So just even going deeper and recognizing, okay, here's the comparison, and then here's all these underlying things in my mask of like, I want it perfect. Where in the past, when I was doing it, I didn't feel I'd really taken the perfectionist mask off and just showed up. But I think because right now, so many people, like with the reels and all these things, with the beautiful videos that people are creating, I'm like, that looks really
so it brings up a little of the not enoughness. It definitely brings up the perfection mask for sure, because I'm not like what you're maybe feeling is I'm not doing it good enough compared to what all these other people are putting out there.
Right. And I'm talking,
Mm.
business wise, not because I don't do personal posts really.
Right, right.
But yeah, because you see it and it's like, wow, that's
Yeah.
really
I
amazing.
get that. I get that. And I think I would also concur that that does currently happen for me today as well, where there's that looking up, thinking that I wish I could do it that well.
Yep. Yep.
I wish my if anything, like I talk about Robin Artson all the time, my Peloton instructor. Well, first of all, I look upward at her in a number of ways. One, how she posts on Instagram, like her videos and everything are great. Like I love them, just like you said, but how inspiring she is. She's so inspiring. And I compare, I'm like, well, I'm not that inspiring, and Brene Brown does talk about something. She does talk about admiration and reverence. And she says, where that kind of comes in handy is when you have if you're comparing, so to speak, but you have admiration or reverence for someone, it can actually motivate you.
Yes, totally.
To change. So I like that.
And I like that too, in that it's recognizing comparison isn't always negative. It shows that there's always two sides to the coin. There's always the light and the dark. And so we can go down the comparison route in a negative, lack-based way, or we can use it like you just described as like, oh, that's inspiring. I'm going to explore more of that for myself.
Exactly.
And so
motivate change.
Comparison doesn't always have to be bad, but we think of comparison as being bad.
Right. Well, because like I shared at the very beginning of this episode, it gave me such a yucky feeling, when I would do that downward one, for sure. Like Jesus wouldn't do that, like what good Christian Catholic person would look down upon someone and say, oh, I didn't say it. I never said it, but I always felt it and thought it, right? That's where I'm pulling the mask off, because
Buddha would never have done it.
Buddha wouldn't do that. They wouldn't
under
do
his
that.
tree.
Exactly. But I do love what Brene Brown says in her book on 24, is that somewhere in here, she talks about choosing connection over comparison. So what she says, because she's a huge swimmer, so what she says, and she uses the example in her book, if you remember, how she actually hurt her shoulder because she was trying to outswim someone that was younger in the lane next to her that was probably preparing for some kind of like triathlon, and Brene was trying to compare and outdo and hurt her shoulder. Now she just says, and I forgot exactly where it is, but now she just thinks to herself when she gets in the pool and she looks at someone in the lane next to her, hey, have a good swim. She just like, it's wanting, the other person to also have abundance. It's like sending well wishes. It's the loving kindness.
Yeah.
May I have this, but may you have peace, joy. May you have a good swim. May you do your best and do well.
Exactly. And I love the visual too of like, she's staying in her lane.
I know.
And that other person's staying in their lane, and we can both have a beautiful experience side by side.
Side by side.
I'll go at mine.
It's so hard for us to do that though. We are a society in a world of comparing. And as soon as you hear judgment let me put it to me. As soon as I hear judgment coming out of my mouth, I'm comparing.
Yeah.
In some way, even if I'm saying, oh, I can't believe that he said such and such. Like, oh, I would not say something. Like, what, am I that better of a person? Like, just because I don't say something that might be like snarky or harsh doesn't mean that I have never thought that.
Right.
So I'm
or that you probably have said something.
And I probably have said it
right
at some point.
Right.
So judgment is a sure sign that comparison is lurking underneath. Oh, like talk about being vulnerable and taking off the mask, because when you're a perfectionist like I am and wear a perfection mask, who wants to come on social media in front of all these people and say, yeah, you know what? I compare
Right.
struggle with comparison.
Yeah. And it'd be interesting to actually, I don't think anyone can't not compare. Isn't that part
I
of
know.
the human condition too?
Yes, yes. And she does talk about that. And then it's something she says, here's what makes all of this really tough. Many social psychologists consider social comparison something that happens to us.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like something that, it just happens to us. The only thing that we can do is how we show up to it, is what she says.
Yes.
What do you do? It's going to happen. It's inevitable. Comparison is in us. The only thing we have control over is what we then do with it or do about it, and
that's
being
the beauty,
aware.
right? And isn't that the beauty with everything in life, is like we get to create our life, and that's where our empowerment is,
Yeah.
So yes, this stuff's going to show up, comparison, lack, whatever. Then what are we going to do about it? How do we want to show up?
And this is beautiful how our I am whole process connects, because with I'm willing to take 100% and realize that my part, I'm willing to do this, and exploring the trigger of why I'm comparing,
Yep.
so that it's beautiful how they tie together. I can definitely go in and see, okay, I'm comparing myself to other. Why do I do that? That's the trigger. Having awareness about it.
Right.
What's this coming? Where is it coming from? And what can I do about it differently?
Right. And recognize and have compassion for ourselves that
comparison
is part of human experience. So how can I step through with this compassion for myself? Like, you're just noticing, you're aware, and now what do I do with it? Do I want to come from that place of, like you were saying before, and how she talks about looking up or down at another, or is it just we're in our own lane, as she talks about swimming? Like, I can choose to just be in my lane and, like, you know what, this is great. I want to cheer you on. And I'm either going to, like, be okay with where I'm at, or be like, you know what, I want to do it a little differently now. So we have all these choices.
And then just to finally tie in the other part where she says, comparison says, be like everyone else, but better. And what you just said, and what she is saying, is not about being better. It's about, hey, you do your best in your lane. I'll do my best in my lane. Let's just both do our thing, but I don't have to be the best or be better than you.
And it's not about being better. It's about being authentic. Am I being true to myself in this moment? And
it doesn't matter. And I'll end by saying that I'm on page 68 and you're only on page 50 in the book. And for the listeners who don't know what
at all.
For those of you who have no idea why I said that, is that before we started recording, I asked Tia how much she read in the book, and she's like, oh, not very far. And I'm like, yeah, me either. And then she says, I think I'm on page 50. And I go, oh, well, I'm on page 68.
So we started right off the bat, and this is all incredibly playful and joyous. So
absolutely.
It shows too that we can play. It's having that fun and playing with the form of it all.
Absolutely.
Attachment and where we're at. So you know what? I'm going to go read about 20 pages.
You can catch up to me. Masks off. Oh my goodness. So it's so good. This was such a fun chat today. So are you complete?
I am complete, and I wish everyone a beautiful day.
Yes. Thank you so much, everybody. And, as always, we offer the opportunity that if you want to connect with us, you can share how comparison shows up in your life if you want, or if you need added support on how to get in that place of managing it so that you're in your lane and the other people are in their lane. Feel free to reach out to us. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook, email us. It's all in the show notes.
Exactly. All right. Great conversation. Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye.